Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.
Hi, I'm Adam Heath Avitable.
And I'm Sarah.
This is the DKS Podcast, a podcast about dating, sex, and relationships. This week, we'll be talking about pair bonding and promiscuity. Enjoy the show.
And hey, YouTube, thanks so much for watching. If you are enjoying our videos and you've watched past videos, be sure to like them and subscribe to our channel so we can continue to put out shorts and more fun content on YouTube.
So happy March.
Oh, March. Fuck. I know February hits real quick. then it's spring, basically.
This episode will be out in March. And March is actually our 5-year anniversary of doing the podcast.
I thought you forgot.
I would never forget. Even though I like to say we're on the 6th season, it is our 5th year, which sounds confusing, but it makes sense to me.
It does make sense to you. Yes, every time.
I know. Well, because I think what we did was we did the first year or like half a year or 9 months, whatever. And I was like, let's start over with season 2. And that's really where it all came from.
Mm-hmm.
So we're this means we've been doing this shit for 5 whole years this month. That's pretty crazy.
We've tolerated each other for 5 whole years. It's our friendship for 5 years.
It is. It really is. That is the funny thing, is that the podcast existed before our friendship.
I know.
Like, we didn't know each other before that.
We were just strangers talking on the internet, basically.
Yeah. It's really kind of odd when you think about that. So, and now we talk about our lives, and and everybody who's been listening and following along knows what's been going on. And I know we have some people who've been catching up now and like are messaging me from like, oh, I'm listening to an episode from 2018 and something. I'm like, oh, you're gonna
characters change. Yeah. The arcs change there a little bit, but
that's right. Yeah, our character arcs. There's been some development. So what's been going on in your life?
I am packing to go to a bachelorette party this weekend. So I talked about, going to Florida for a wedding. So my cousin's getting married and we're all going to Austin, Texas. It's a group of, I want to say 7 or 8 girls. I only know my cousin, and then my other cousin's wife is going. So 2 other people. And I'll be the oldest one there. So 31-year-old me, and I think everyone else is 24, 25. So I'm not trying to drink up with anybody, and right. I'm just going to do my own thing. Actually, when my cousin invited me, she was like, if you want to go to some of the events, you can. If you just want to hang and explore Austin, you can, do your own thing. We're older, or you're older than us. I was like, that doesn't mean I can't join, but.
Well, especially because you're in your 30s, chronologically, but like, you're really like in your 60s when it comes to like who you are as a human being on the inside. So
well, I'm not trying to stay out until 2 a.m. partying on 6th
Why
Street.
not? You're on vacation at a bachelorette party. Like, why not?
Because I don't enjoy doing that. That's why.
Because you're 60 on the inside.
That doesn't mean I'm 60 just because I don't want to be at the bar. No, that's it. You like doing that because that's a you thing. I like going to bed by 10:30. I like feeling rested. I like waking up early. That doesn't mean I'm fucking 60. Of course,
you like checking the newspaper and reading the obituaries to see
I don't do that.
Your friends have died each week.
You're such an asshole. There are probably other people out there who are in their 30s
doing your macrame, your cross stitching.
I just bought a macrame for my plants. They just came in the mail today, actually.
Yeah, see.
It makes me happy, and fuck you.
I'm just saying, don't deny that you're 60 years old on the inside.
And
there's nothing wrong with it. It's just how you are.
I just think I'm a regular 30 or 31-year-old person. You're just not the normal 46-year-old person.
Well, and I know that too. But no, I would say that most people in their early 30s, when they go away for a bachelorette party, will probably let loose a little bit. And your idea of letting loose is going to be having 2 drinks instead of 1.
No, it's going to be having 1. Dude, okay, so like and I'll get into it, but I had a couple of drinks the other weekend and I was like, yo, I'm fucking wasted right now after 2 cocktails. So I'm not trying to drink that much. And
Right.
honestly, I think the pendulum is shifting for a lot of people, like reevaluating their alcohol intake. And I'm one of those people. So I'm not sober, but I'm more on the like sober curious. I don't really hate drinking, but I'm not always reaching for a glass of wine like I used to be after a day of work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's fine too. I only drink when I'm out, like being social, which is not very often. So I understand that. But I also think bachelorette parties are stupid. I think that the idea of separating into the 2 different genders and having to go on, like, especially like, going with the people that just because they're on the bride side versus the groom side to go like have this last hurrah party is kind of an outdated thing. I think it should just be like a fun event for everybody.
I mean, it doesn't have to be separated. Some people do it all together. It just really depends on your friend group. But I think it's a good thing if you're sensible and on the same page with other people about your expectations. Yeah. I think where it gets bad is when a lot of people have, you have 10 girls or whatever, and they all have very different expectations of how the weekend's going to go. And there's like someone with a tight deadline of we're doing this at 9 a.m., then this at 11, then this. That's not my vibe. We have some things throughout the day, but it's like afternoon, do whatever you want. Evening, meet us up for dinner. It's pretty chill, and I'm sure people will break off in groups and it'll be fine. So this will be my second one. But yeah, I don't plan on getting too crazy. I haven't been to Texas since, I don't know, like 2017 or something like that. So it's been a minute, and it's the only place in Texas I've ever been, actually.
Yeah.
I've never been anywhere else, just Austin.
Yeah, well, I feel like Austin in March is a good, nice time to go. Like, I feel like the weather should be pretty much perfect at that point.
Yeah.
So, hopefully. And yeah, that's probably the only part of Texas really worth going to. Would be the like that Austin, San Antonio area. I mean, I feel like pockets of Houston and Dallas are okay too, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
So
that's me.
So bachelorette party. So I'm sure we're gonna have a fun story about you
not going out,
about you not going out and doing anything.
I'm sure
about you being driven crazy by all the 20-year-olds being going out and drinking.
I just feel like the one thing that will probably get on my nerves is the expectation of having to do everything that the other people want to do.
Right.
And I am very fucking vocal. Plus, it's my family. So if I bow out, I fucking bow out. And that's how it is, kind of thing. I'm going to do me. But there is like a dress code for certain events, which kind of irks me a little bit. But I'm like, okay,
that sounds terrible.
It's just for me a little much, and I think if I ever planned a bachelorette party, what would I do? I just sit by the pool all day and then go to a spa, and that would be it. It would be a 1-day thing, no plans, just hang out and drink, I guess. But it's not me, and it'll be fun regardless. So
hopefully, I hope it will be.
Hopefully,
it sounds basically like hell. Other than the fact of just hanging out with a bunch of like drunk 24-year-olds, which is basically those are my people.
Those are your people, yeah.
I mean, other than that, the rest of it just sounds absolutely terrible.
Well, I'll be happy to see my family and to be in a new city and see some sunshine for 3 consecutive days. So
I know you've gone a few weeks without traveling. Are you? How are you feeling? Are you feeling antsy?
Well, it's like I do Austin, and then I'm going to Chile, and then I'm going to Florida, and then I'm going to Alaska, and then I'm going to Maine. So I have my whole fucking year planned. At this point.
I forgot about Alaska too. I forgot you were doing that. Yeah, you really
I know my coworkers were asking me like, oh, because they saw PTO for this weekend or whatever, or Thursday, Friday, and they're like, oh, are you going to Alaska? And I was like, oh no, I'm going to Texas. They're like, wait, when are you going to Alaska? I'm like, oh, that's like Memorial Day. They're like, wait, when are you going to Chile? And I was like, oh, that's right after this. They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that's fine. That's me.
Yeah, that's great. Chile's gonna be fun, I think, and that's you're doing that with a group, right? So you're not gonna be on you like completely on your own.
Right. Yeah. I think after a couple of trips of being solo and spending probably 2 months solo, just on trips, I'm ready to be in a group again. So I joined a different group than the one I was in last time called the Wi-Fi Tribe. And I'll be interested to there's like 21 of us in the group. So hopefully I'll mesh with a couple people there and it'll be good.
Yeah, hopefully I won't have any douchebags.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't be too sure.
Yeah, you never
there's
know.
always one douchebag in a group. Am I right?
At least one douche. Yes.
Yeah.
And if there isn't, then you're the douchebag.
Fuck, you're right.
You're like, oh no, everything was great. There was no assholes. Yeah, sorry, that does mean that you were the asshole and nobody told you. Well, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. What about you? What have you been up to?
Not much at all. I've been mostly a hermit. It's been snowing. I had a friend come in from Florida who I hadn't seen in a couple of years and come for the weekend. So that was nice. It was nice to have somebody that you just hear. And I was worried that I was going to be like sick of her like by like the first day, just because I'm so used to having nobody in my space at all. But we got along great, so it was really nice to just have someone like, hey, let's go do these things and show her around a couple of my favorite places. And she liked my favorite bar as much as I like my favorite bar, so that was nice. And tried to show her some of the cooler parts of here, but it was mostly snow and cold. And hit the hot tub a couple times, which was nice. And there was it was great. There was the one point where we went to see Cocaine Bear, which was very fun.
I really want to see that movie so bad.
And then I think we got back from that, and she's like, do you have any edibles? And I was like, yeah, I happen to have some. I don't really take them very often, but I have them. And so I gave her there was a few options, and she just grabbed one and took it. And like an hour later, we were in the hot tub, and all of a sudden, like she started getting like really kind of like wide-eyed and wanted to get out of the hot tub. And so she was hungry. So we went to this place to get pizza, and we're sitting there about to get pizza, and we ordered, we're just waiting. And she goes, they all know.
She's fucked.
I was like, what do they all know? They all know how high I am right now. How do they all know? And she just like, and she's usually pretty, it's pretty funny because she takes edibles all the time, but apparently she didn't look at the one she took, and it's like a 250 milligram edible. And usually she takes like, 10
I'd die. I would fucking die. I would
only
die.
Imagine seeing
I would see God like 5 times. 5 times.
I would probably pay good money to see you high on 250 milligrams of THC.
Bro, I had 100 and thought I saw God. Could you imagine on 250? What the fuck? No way.
But it was we had a good time, got to catch up, and I don't think we'd ever really spent that much like quality time together either. Like it'd been like, we'll go out every now and then and spend a couple nights, or I would go over to her place when she's having a party and end up just like crashing at her place for the night. So I'd see her, overnight basically, but nothing like on this level. And it was really great. And she was funny because she was like, I was really anxious because I just get anxious when I go anywhere. She was like, I went to my family's when my grandmother died, and I was anxious about like just staying there and all this. And she said, so I just, she goes, it took like 2 days for my anxiety to go away and finally feel like comfortable. And I felt great. And I was really worried, but now I'm not. And she goes, now I have to leave and go back. And she's like, it sucks, by the time you start to feel, kind of like on, really like yourself. But so that was really nice. And then it's also really nice that she's gone, and now I have the place completely to myself again.
I was gonna say good for you for socializing, but never mind.
Well, no, it was good. I mean, she was here for 4 days. We had 4 solid days of socializing, and now I'm ready to be alone and not leave the place and talk to anybody for a couple days. So
okay, well, I'll stop calling you.
Ups and downs. You can always call. And my dad's still in Florida, and he's coming back in the second week of March now. And he just called me today and was telling me that he's like, yeah, I'm really like, I'm enjoying this. Like, it's nice. I'm on the beach. Like, it's beautiful weather. There's enough of a breeze, not hot.
Because it's the best time to be in Florida. This is when the snowbirds go to Florida. Yeah.
Well, he's a snowbird now, even though he used to live in Florida for many years. And he said, he goes, like, I miss your mother terribly. I miss her, tremendously, but, we weren't able to do this for a while, and so it's kind of like, it's nice. It feels free to be able to do these things. And I was like, yeah, Dad, I mean, you're free to do whatever the hell you want. And he was kind of realizing, like, if I come back and I do whatever stuff I have to do around the house and I got to pay taxes and all that stuff, he goes, and then I decide I just want to fly off to somewhere else, I can. I was like, yeah, Dad, you can do whatever, like literally you can do whatever you want. Like, you are retired. You have disposable income, like you can do anything you want right now. And I think that he's finally really realizing that, and I think it'll be good for him. So, we'll see.
Good for your dad.
Yeah, I know.
About time he's come around a little bit, you know?
A little bit, yeah. And there's still plenty of other issues. He did say something to my sister the other day where he was like, you kids just don't seem to understand that I lost my wife.
Like, does he not understand that
we lost our mother?
Yeah.
No, it's just in his head. It just doesn't. I just don't think he thinks about it like that. Like it's his wife first, and then and everything else is secondary. Even his children's loss. Yeah. That's just how he processes things. So very, very interesting. But it's probably a very interesting look into my family dynamic there too. Maybe shows why I'm so kind of independent and off trying to do my own thing.
Yeah, no need to ruffle more feathers being around some of those comments. So
yeah, exactly. So that's all that's been going on in my life. Yeah, let's get into a couple things before we take it over to our travel section. First thing I'd like, and if you're listening right now, pause the podcast. We'll wait till I finish my sentence first. But I want you to too late. They already paused it. I want you to pause the podcast, and I want you to call 407-519-0181 and leave us a voicemail. I want you to ask some advice. I want you to say something about the podcast, just something. We ran out of voicemails. We finally got caught up on them. I like having one every week to try to do, every episode to try to do. And so we need more. So I need you to come up with a question, something that's been bothering you. You can do it anonymously. You don't have to give your name if you don't want. And just leave that at 407-519-0181.
And it doesn't have to be about a relationship or anything like that. It could be something. It could be anything, really.
Yeah, it really can be. It can be any type of topic related to. I mean, Sarah's been traveling everywhere. It can be about travel. It could be about different cultures. It can be about anything that you just wanted to talk about. We would love to hear it.
What are you pissed off about? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like what's bothering you recently? Let's talk about that too. I want to try to expand it. I just want you to be able to leave a question or statement about anything. Something gives us something to discuss in this first section of the podcast. So that's your job right now, is to, like I said, to pause the episode and dial 407-519-0181 and leave us a call or leave us a message. So go do that right now. Okay, good job.
You're back. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, and you're back.
Cool, good job.
So two things I wanted to mention. One is, first of all, this new thing that I've been hearing about, this Facebook group called "Are We Dating the Same Guy?" And there's ones for all different cities, and they're private groups that are for women only, which makes me sad. Not because I just feel like I'd love
you want in on the drama.
I want to read some of the comments, but basically it's the rules are very strict. Like, you can't trash men. You can't, it's very, very, very strict about it. But it's basically, and you haven't heard about this, really, have you?
I'm not on Facebook.
Well, it's not, but I mean, I didn't hear about it on Facebook. I heard about it on TikTok and Twitter and things like that. So
no, I've seen other Facebook groups saying, stay away from this guy and in this city, whatever. So this is just the now it's, are we dating him?
So it's essentially, it's essentially all women are doing is just posting a photo of a guy or a Tinder profile. And then women are basically coming out, oh yeah, I'm dating him right now. And then someone else saying, I'm dating him right now. So you're essentially having these men be called out for being fuckboys, or worse. Someone's like, oh yeah, I'm married to him, or oh, that's my friend's husband. Oh, well, I just saw him on Tinder, and so it's basically there's nowhere to hide from if men are being shitty. And of course, men are being very, getting very angry about this.
Fuck. Wait, did you see a TikTok of a guy being angry about this?
No. I saw that some of the rules are like, here's why, you please don't talk about this because men are getting, very upset about it. And
they're getting called out for their shitty behavior,
because they're being held accountable. And that's what makes shitty men angrier than anything in the world, is being held accountable. They would much rather just, blame everybody else. And actually, so a very good friend of mine is in the Orlando group, and someone, I don't think she did, but someone posted a picture of the guy that she just recently broken up with over the last 6 months ago. And someone else anonymously commented and said, oh yeah, that guy's a fuckboy. He was recently in a relationship and he was cheating on her the whole time, and I felt so terrible, but he was fucking a different girl every night and stuff like that. She's sitting here, she called me, she's just so upset. And I was like, well, at least you're done with him now. What can you do? But yeah, so it's insane. But yeah, so men out there,
Jesus, that's breaking up marriages real quick.
right? Which is it should
Yeah.
stop being shitty men, basically. But I love the concept of it. So if you are a woman and you are on Facebook, I would recommend checking one of those groups out. I think you just search for like, are we dating the same guy in the name of your city, and you might be able to find the group. And especially it might be a good screening tool for people, for anybody who, if you're dating anybody. I wonder, like, if there's one in Utah or whatever, and people are posting like my Tinder picture, anybody dating this guy, and everybody's gonna be like, no, like we were chatting and then he just kind of like disappeared and stopped talking. Like he just or like
seemed cool, but
he
nothing.
Seemed great, but yeah, he just didn't really want to travel all the way over to Salt Lake City or something like that. That's my guess is what it's all like. Yeah. But he just seemed like he wanted to promote his podcast and his TikTok. He didn't really want to date anybody. So
damn. Well, I also think it would be interesting, like how early on some people are dating that they'll post the photo. Like after a first date, or people going on and then sharing that photo. Like,
yeah, you do have to wonder, what is dating? Like, are they saying, are you actually dating him, or did you just go on a date with him? Because one of those, there's nothing wrong with it. The other one is if you talk about exclusivity. But yeah, you really want to, but the ones that were married and shit like that too. It's crazy.
Fucking wild. Or just like your friend with the breakup story and all that.
Yeah, she would
have never known.
Yeah, she never would have known. She suspected he might have been, but she wasn't sure. Yeah, because like one day she found him like shaving his whole body, which he generally didn't do. But he also works in a gay bar as a bartender. So he said he was doing it just because it was just more comfortable, because sometimes he just works in like a thong. And so she was like, okay. But yeah, now it turns out that it might not have been that for that at all.
Interesting. I mean, I did that, like expose somebody and just contacted the woman directly.
Right.
She didn't break up with him. She just,
I know it's
I had like 25 missed calls from that guy, Nick. And then she messaged me saying, thanks so much. Da, 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 da. And because he's on my fucking Venmo for whatever fucking reason, because I sometimes I check the feed and all my shit's always private. I see him sending her fucking money for shit, or the other way around. I'm like, you guys are still fucking together, which is, I guess you worked it out great, but
yeah,
scumbag, typical. So what else? What else? We don't have a hotline thing, but anything else from the Facebook group?
Yeah, let's do a quick shout out to the countries where we've recently been on the charts. You want to do that?
Yeah. So some of these are new, some of these are new-ish. So we have Malaysia, Zimbabwe, Slovenia, Vietnam, and New Zealand. I haven't heard New Zealand. I haven't heard New Zealand
either. Yeah, it's been a while, and I'm very excited about that. I want everyone in New Zealand to listen to the podcast, because I want to travel to New Zealand, and so I want us to be famous enough there that people want us to come out there, and then we can justify it.
Well, Australia is I know they're not the same country, I'm aware, but I'm saying in that region of the world, Australia is one of our top countries.
Yeah, it is on a consistent basis. Yeah, we have a lot of listeners there too, which is great. We do not have as Sarah said, we don't have no hotline call. However, we do have from our Facebook group, which you can join as well by going to facebook.com/groups/DKS Podcast. We have someone who posted anonymously, and they had a question, and I thought we would just tackle that, because it is an interesting one and something that maybe nobody's really thought of before. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can go. So it starts off by saying, as someone who has had relatively few sexual partners, do two people ever just not fit together sexually? Like, we're into each other, we're both aroused, but stuff isn't quite fitting correctly. It's almost like one person's body is angled one way and another person's is angled another. I can't quite explain it, but it feels weird. Like, we start to get a rhythm and then things pop out. Possibly related, new partner is a bigger guy. I'm larger too, but I feel like maybe his belly is in the way. Is that a real thing? How do you deal with that? I've been with bigger guys before, but this is the first time that nothing we try seems to work. In the past, we're able to find one or two positions early on, and then we could work on the rest. So that is our question.
All right. And I think that I would say I'm probably pretty uniquely suited to answer that as a bigger guy. I can understand that, but either there's two things that I'm thinking of. Number one is sometimes it can be just just not a fit. Like it's something where you just have to really find that one position that works. If you're both larger, sometimes having the woman be on top is going to be a position that gives you the control, and so that's something I would suggest as well. Because whenever I've had sex with somebody who's also a little bit larger, that's always seemed to be the most fruitful way to have sex. And then like when there's other types of sex, like doggy style, I know is like such a popular way to have sex, but it is harder. It is harder to just to coordinate in general, no matter what. Like I think it's one of those things that you can sometimes just not quite like angle right, and it's just you're not getting there. And I had a girlfriend that was not bigger, and she always wanted to try doggy style, and it was just never working for us. It was just like, I don't know what it was. Like I could never figure it out. Something about just the angles weren't working properly, was not getting there. And so we would try to find other ways. I think the other thing is, if I don't know if your partner's also had relatively few sexual partners, but if he has, he could be trying to do porn sex. And I remember, because I tried to do porn sex the first times I was having sex when I was with Amy, with my ex-wife. And what porn sex is you watch porn where they're always pulling all the way out, and then they go all the way in, and they pull all the way out, and they go all the way in, because they're doing it for fucking a movie. They're doing it for a film.
They're shooting that content.
Yes, exactly. And you need to stop. You need to tell him to stop doing that, because if he's got a bigger belly or whatever, then it's probably he's pulling out too far and he's popping out, because he's trying to pull out and thrust in, when instead, once he's in, he should essentially be grinding his hips back and forth, and you should be grinding. You don't need to be pulling out and you don't need to thrust like that. Like once you're in and there's a fit, then use that to the best of your ability, but don't try to pull out it and try to like make it like porn sex, because that's when you're going to fuck up. I guess, no pun intended. So that'd be my answer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I haven't thought about that, of pulling all the way out. I was originally just thinking it was the rhythm, but not from like the pulling out way. But if he was like going too fast, and then that, especially like doggy style or whatever, then he's popping out or whatever. My other thought was, finding the right position is important, but using pillows always really seem to help if I am struggling with stuff, of just having something else to elevate your hips. Whether it's doggy style or missionary or whatever the position is, that's helped me in the past, but a lot of the times it stemmed from just the rhythm is way too fast, and just checking that and making sure, like, you good with this? Okay, I'm good with this, and just trying to maintain that. Because a lot of switching around, then you're just going to be unsatisfied too, of like, oh, we tried that, didn't work. Oh, we tried that. It's like, let's find Old Faithful first, and then just stick with that. So
yes, exactly. Find Old Faithful first. But yeah, no, I think that's very true. So I definitely need to, I would say, try a few things, try different positions, find that one position, find the one way when it fits in, and then kind of work with it. And I'm sure that position is there. And
it has to be there. But don't start with a crazy position either. Right. Start with missionary, start with girl on top, start, if doggy style doesn't work, start with some of like the tried and true ones. And then if those don't work, then research other ones that look like could work for a sustained period of time. Because that's the other thing too, is some of these positions look cool. I can't be in that position for more than 3 fucking minutes. Are you kidding me? My hips, my knees, my feet, like trying to hold it on my fucking balls of my toe, whatever.
Plus you're a 60-year-old woman, so like you can't really be doing that.
My arthritis,
my hips, my joints. I mean, I just can't do it anymore. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll be hearing from Sarah. We'll be with
patch up her hip.
That's right. She's gonna go put some ointment on. We'll be right back with What to See with Sarah G.
So typically for the What to See with Sarah G section, I pick a city, and then I call out all of the cool places to eat and attractions to visit and where to stay and all of that. But Roy and I actually took a staycation about 30 minutes outside of Seattle. What was it, last weekend? And we had the absolute best time. And I really just want to highlight this area, because we haven't really done anything as a couple, as a trip in a while, and it hasn't been like a what to see. So this is more incorporated with the romance and the, that side of things, if you're planning on visiting the Pacific Northwest.
The Roy-mance, if you will.
With the Roy man. Don't tell him that. I don't. So, where we stayed was the lodge at St. Edward's Park. And it's actually located in St. Edward's Park, which is a state park in the state of Washington. So as we were driving through, there's a main road, but as we were driving through to get to the hotel, you're literally just driving through what it felt like a forest of trees to then find the lodge, like perched up a little bit on a hill. Pretty cool though, because it's not your typical hotel. It actually used to be a seminary, and it was a seminary for 45 years. And then it kind of just sat vacant for a long time. And then they renovated it and reopened as a hotel in May of 2021. So you'll see a lot of history throughout the building. And that's what I really loved about staying there, was like, it's not just a cookie cutter, other hotel chain. It was like, oh, cool, I'm here for the surrounding nature and the vibe that this place brings. So as you're, walking through and going to your room, you'll notice that previous dormitories are actually combined into two, and they were enlarged to make those guest rooms. And then former classrooms on the main floors are now where meeting spaces and event spaces are held. And then they also have they used to have a barber shop, and that's now turned into a bar called Tonsorium Bar, which is Latin for barbershop. And then their previous dining hall, when it was a seminary, is now their main restaurant, Cedar Elm. So, but they really keep with the history of that. Throughout the property, as you're walking through, you can see old photography of this is what it used to look like. Here's what it looks like now. And they really kept up with a lot of the historic features of the building. So much so that as we were walking through, there's this small little section downstairs and in a little corner, almost like a closet sized room that they didn't really renovate. They kept the really original. And that's where students would go if they were punished. It was just a little closet door, the punishing room. I don't think that's the right term, but just a little room. They haven't figured out what to do with that space, but they were we don't want to do anything with it yet, but this is obviously an original. And then around the property, there's a indoor swimming pool that isn't renovated, but that's where it was, that they plan on renovating in the future, possibly. There's a bee yard where all the honeybees are kept. And then there's also a pickleball court where hotel guests can reserve court time or
What's pickleball?
So did you know?
I've heard of it. I have no concept of what it is.
Right. So I never played it, but it's actually Washington State's official sport, I guess.
Okay.
I learned that while I was there. But it's kind of like tennis, but you're in an inside court. So you have the net there, and you have little, they're not table tennis size paddles, but they feel like they're around that size. I've never played, but when we walked in there were people playing, and I was like, this looks just like you're on a bigger court, but you're playing with small, not a big tennis racket, just a little thing. Yeah.
So no pickles involved.
Nope. No pickles.
All right. I was just wondering. I just thought maybe. Okay.
Not sure how it got that name. No, I don't know. But you can reserve and play pickleball as a guest, or since it's on, the state park's property, you can also just go if you're visiting the state park there. But what I found really amazing, there were so many other hiking trails around the property. So you could mountain bike, you could hike down to Lake Washington, you could just walk around all of the trails. There's also a grotto that weddings are held at too, which was beautiful. And we weren't there, during summer when all the weddings were happening, but I imagine, you could just have a beautiful wedding there. So Roy and I explored that area for probably 2 hours of just walking around there. And then we got the chance to, after our hike, go to the spa, the Vita Nova Spa, and enjoy an infrared sauna. So with the gloomy weather, it was really the perfect treat. And then after we walked around the art gallery on the main floor, which is filled with local artists from the Washington area. So a lot of really fun, quirky things to do around the hotel that typically you wouldn't experience anywhere else, where you just check in, sleep, and whatever. I just felt like there was so much more to do there. But one thing that Roy and I had to ask when we were around the property was if the hotel is actually haunted. I had watched a couple of YouTube videos and people saying they had a weird experience, and I didn't have any weird experiences. If anything, I was more anxious that I was going to have an experience, and then nothing ended up happening. We did ask a couple of people at the hotel And they say that it's haunted, and they were sharing stories of feeling like there was somebody in the room. But again, I personally can't speak to that.
So basically, you're saying that that anyone who lives in Washington or is traveling to Washington should check out the lodge at St. Edward State Park.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back during the summertime. They hold festivals in the park during the summer. That's what they were telling us, and it would just be a cool place to chill and enjoy being outside. I thought it probably and I've stayed at a lot of places, probably one of the coolest hotels I've stayed at, just from all the history. There's also a library too. So, they renovated a lot of other places. They had a library, which was the original library when it was a seminary. And they had, free snacks and drinks, and you could play games. So we played chess and played Monopoly and read books and just hung out in the library too. So especially for the Pacific Northwest region, if the weather's not the best, and you visit during the winter time, it's kind of the best place to just cozy up to a book and hang out in there.
Yeah, and your photos and stuff. And if you're looking for more details on the lodge, you can check out Sarah's Instagram reels and TikTok reels. I think you have some info there. We even have some on our YouTube too that you can check out. Some great videos. Now, as somebody who goes to hotels and then usually never leaves the room and just stays in, are the rooms nice? Like,
I love. Yes, the rooms are nice. Yeah. The beds are really comfy. We were in a king size bed, so typically we sleep in a queen, so that was nice. And they also had an espresso machine in there, which I think is pretty rare for hotel. Normally, it's just a standard coffee maker. Yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, hell yeah, like gourmet coffee in my room in the morning. So that was nice. But I would suggest you leave the room, of course, if you stay there, don't just stay, don't just stay there. But yeah, no, it was a really nice sized room. And I don't know, we did so much exploring around the property that I was actually kind of sad to leave because we had such a good time. And it was right after Valentine's Day. So it was like a Valentine's Day weekend treat. And we had some cocktails at the different restaurants that were there and just really enjoyed our time. And it was funny, I don't think Roy was as excited for the trip as I was, because I was like, oh, like perfect timing, Valentine's Day, something special, just the two of us. And he was like, oh, no, it'll be fine. And then as we were walking through and when we had dinner our first night there at Cedar Elm, he's like, this is so fucking nice. Like, this is amazing. And all the food that we ordered, and we had champagne, and then the cocktails were like the best he's ever had. And we just had an absolute blast and really felt like, because we ate there almost for every single meal, we really knew a couple of the waiters, and they were like, oh, you're back again. Oh, what's going on? So it was like, we really felt, for the 2 days that we stayed there, that we felt part of, the crew, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, the lodge at St. Edward State Park, highly recommend if you're just visiting the Seattle area and you kind of want to get away from the city for a day or two and your trip to the Pacific Northwest. I think it's a really good option. And then you can make your way back to Seattle whenever.
Fantastic. All right. Well, there we go. That's what to see with Sarah G. The lodge, St. Edward State Park. And we're going to go ahead and take a break, come back, and we're going to talk about pair bonding and promiscuity.
Adam, why the fuck are we talking about pair bonding? I'm sure this is going to be something about men are shitty and I don't know, something along those lines, but I've never heard about this before.
All right. Well, where this came from was there has been just a prevalence of shitty men. Yes. On TikTok recently, giving quote unquote dating advice, which is terrible advice. Usually saying they always look like, they always look like the lowest specimens of human beings in the world. It's like the same people who say that they're white supremacists, and you're always like, you're not, there's no supremacy in you, buddy. It's like same type of guys. They're like these guys who are just like, you never date a woman with, who has a high body count, which, if you don't know what that means, it means who's had a lot of partners, a lot of sexual partners, because it prevents her ability to pair bond, which means that she won't be able to have a relationship. It's a little more complicated, but that's one of their things, though, is they're basically shaming women who have healthy sex lives by saying that they can't pair bond. And this is a myth and everything. So I wanted to get into this and talk about this in a way that makes it extremely clear how fucking stupid these people are and how ignorant they are, and how you should avoid anyone who talks about that with any type of serious tone whatsoever.
Okay, but like definition of pair bond. Like I understand that element of two people and they're bonded together.
Right.
Like I think like Avatar, where she
She puts her tail into his asshole or
Yeah, like,
whatever. I
that's
don't
what
know.
I
I haven't
think,
seen it, but yeah, isn't that what they do?
yeah.
He pegs him with her tail, and then like they're bonded.
And then they're bonded
Yeah.
forever. Is that like what this is?
That's close. So okay, so a pair bond is a relationship between two animals that lasts beyond the mating period. So it's like after they have sex, they continue to have a bond. One of the prime examples of this, because it's not actually very common in nature. One of the big examples is the prairie vole. Okay, which is like a small rodent that mates for life, and it actually mates for life. They form a relationship that lasts well after mating. It cohabitates. They raise the offspring together. If the partner dies, the other vole usually never gets another mate. It usually just becomes depressed and lethargic and just eventually dies. And in fact, I even read this, that if in studies, if they separate a vole from its partner in like a clinical setting, the other one will become so apathetic that it'll just let you drown it without even struggling. Like it'll just
Holy
like
shit.
like that's a pair bond. Like it's this like essentially codependent relationship where they literally cannot exist without each other. So that's
Okay, but
what a pair bonding is. Yeah.
That's one example. I'm fucking cats and dogs and elephants, and I don't like name any other animal.
Right. It doesn't happen. It happens, and there's a few examples in like animal kingdom where animals pair bond, but that it's probably not necessarily the best word to use either.
Right. But I'm just thinking, okay, we're going to go back to shitting on women because they have multiple partners. Are we shitting on zebras and
right.
We talking animal kingdom here.
Right. So of course,
because
it's like every time anytime men try to discuss women and they're being shitty is when they're like, oh well, women are like cars, or women are like whatever, women are like this, and we're like machine, an ATM, you put in enough tokens and you get something out, whatever, they all like and that's what they're doing with pair bonding, is they are now basically twisting like science to try to say, oh hey, how do we control women, how do we shame them, what do we do? And so trying to say that women with a high body count can't form pair bonds, so that women should avoid those women if they want a relationship, but they're completely wrong.
This sounds like the church and virginity.
Yes, it is. So that's a big part of it. So there's a variety of reasons of where this comes from. So let's talk about the first thing here.
Oh, okay.
This is like just all the different ways that they're wrong on this. First is the humans, as you already said, humans don't pair bond. Like we don't mate for life. The actual
we don't die and want to get drowned if we're
right.
What?
And if we do, it's considered unhealthy. Like if right, someone's like at that level, the actual technical term for what humans are is serial monogamous. That we commit, and obviously it's more of a historical sense. Like I think society's kind of been changing a little bit with a lot of the polyamory and things like that. But serial monogamy is kind of been a general standard, and I know it doesn't apply to everybody, but like that. So that means we date, and then we break up, and then we date someone else, and we stay with them. But it's very rare that the person you marry is the first person you dated. So even when you get to just the marriage, you're not pair bonded, because if you were pair bonded, you'd be stuck with the original person you dated at 13, who fingered you behind the bleachers and then told all his friends, like that would be that's part of it.
Are these people just talking any kind of sexual interaction or only penetration?
They aren't thinking that far because they're calling it sexual activity. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got you there, bitch.
Right. Yeah, basically. So like their whole initial concept of saying that women can't pair bond if they have a high body count. I'm going to stop saying body count because I hate that phrase. Like it's just a very, I feel like it is not a healthy phrase. It makes it
if they've had a lot of sex.
If they have a healthy sex life, an active sex life, but like, and I don't like promiscuous. Promiscuous also has like these negative connotations to it. Body count sounds like, like she's racking up bodies, and it's not, it makes
like
it
a death toll. Yeah.
Right,
which
right.
doesn't
like
seem
something
good.
You should be ashamed of or feel guilty for, and that you should not. So, yeah. So they're already saying the pair bond thing's already thrown in the trash because people don't pair bond. So like that initial thing. But let's just say they're like, oh, well, I didn't really need pair bonding. I meant, like monogamy, serial monogamy instead. They're like, someone can't do that. They will cite studies. So these men will then have these quote unquote studies that say that women who are more educated, more successful, and more sexual have a higher likelihood of ending relationships that they're in and getting divorces than women who have less exposure to the real world, basically. And
they're saying that's a bad thing?
They're saying it is because they're saying it's because of the promiscuity, because they were promiscuous, quote unquote, because they were so sexually active that they can't form pair bonds with their partners.
Let's pull this back a little bit, right? Let's look at self-confidence, and they have careers, they have stability in their lives, they understand who they are. And then they have a healthy sex life on top of that. Yes. None of those things are negatives, but God forbid.
Right. And then that's the big issue. That's why there's so much of a problem with this, because
they can't control women who are confident.
Exactly. See, so they have these studies that these studies that they're looking at are reaching this conclusion that it's the sexual activity that leads to the ending the relationships.
What study? Who performed these fucking studies? The Catholic Church? Like
usually it's religious places. Usually, and if not religious, then it's usually women-hating groups. Just that are it's written in but they're not scientific studies. These are just like observational studies. Yeah. So
motivational studies.
The other observational. They're basically designed.
Oh, observational. I thought you said motivational.
Oh, no, observational. So, So first of all, why they think this happens, why they suggest this happens, and they can't say it for sure because there's no actual evidence, is that sex causes neurological changes in your brain, relates to the oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin in your brain. And that harms a woman's ability to form an emotional connection or a relationship. It's basically men saying that if good sex for a woman is bad for a relationship, is essentially what that's saying. And
but secondly, they're only looking at women. Are they not looking at how pair bonding impacts men at all? Of course they're not. Of course they're not. Right. They're not saying, okay, but men who have healthy sex lives also blah, blah, blah. They would never.
No, that would be, they would actually have to be, intelligent and understand how studies work and how things, how if one thing applies to one, it applies to both. More than that too, is that there's nothing in the brain chemistry that suggests that the sex with different people causes different changes in the brain. So men have no answer to the fact that if you ask them, so does that mean that a woman who has one partner and has only had one partner her entire life and has only had sex with him, but has sex with him 3 times a day, can't form an emotional attachment now?
Right, because they're wanting someone forever. But what happens to her brain when she's with him forever? We're not concerned about that when she's having sex with him?
Right, because according to their science, if sex causes these neurological changes in the brain, then having one partner and having a lot of sex with that one partner should change the brain in the same way as having multiple partners, which means that a woman having lots of sex no matter what
is bad
for men.
But that should be good for men. They should want women to want to have a lot of sex because that could benefit them if they're not total shitbags.
Exactly. But unfortunately, there are a lot of shitbags out there. So here's another interesting thing, and this is a big problem with these studies too. I'm sure you've heard this phrase before, but correlation is not causation.
Right. I feel like I'm in a lecture hall of you just, this is why men are stupid, and this is why men.
You can tell that I did a lot of research on this
because I know there's a lot on here.
Because I wanted to give information so that people, when they're faced with men arguing this, can say, no, you're wrong. You're stupid. You're a dumb piece of shit. And here's why. And to be able to list X, Y, Z, the reasons.
Well, you just have to question, okay, but what are the implications for men?
Yeah.
Crickets, fucking crickets. If you flip it on them, they won't know what to say.
Not at all. Exactly. Because it's all about controlling women. And so this correlation is not causation thing, which is basically saying when they have a study that says that women who have X, Y, and Z are more likely to get a divorce or not end a relationship. When they say that, then they say, well, this means that this causes this. And what that's similar like is saying, you and I could be a great example. If you do a podcast with somebody, you'll become close friends.
And then you'll want to fuck that friend.
No, I was
Is that where you're going?
No, I wasn't going there.
Where are you going?
I was ending it right here, Sarah. I was ending it right there because
damn it, I
was
thought you
saying
were going
just
sexual
that, like,
for a second.
so that everybody who creates a podcast with somebody is going to become close friends with that person. Just by looking at the fact that we have a podcast and now we're friends.
Right. Let's ignore the data of people who started podcasts end up hating the person.
Right. Like,
that they
just ignore it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. We're only paying attention to this and we're saying this is one of the reasons. So that's what
this is the
like.
pedestal example that we're going to follow this.
Right.
Cause. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's just saying, just anything that you look at an example, or you look at some type of element, you say, well, this must have caused that without any actual proof. There are.
Do we have a hypothesis for what? Well, let's go back to scientific.
So that's
studies.
the thing. So their hypothesis goes back to this pair bonding, which is then based on bad science to begin with. So where they're coming from is they circle back around and they try to self-fulfill this terrible idea based on bad science.
Gotcha.
I would say that there are multiple reasons why a woman who is more experienced in bed and has more partners is less likely to stay in a relationship. I'm sure you can come up with a few on your own.
I don't know. She knows what she wants. She's not in the position where she wants to be forever with somebody. There are so many fucking factors. It's just where you're at in life. It could be.
Well, just the more exposure you have to like everything else, the less you're going to settle for shitty things too.
Yeah.
And if you've had a partner who made you come, then
you're not going to settle for a partner who struggles to make you come, or
the female
doesn't
orgasm
want
is
to
a
go.
Myth,
Yeah, who doesn't want to go down on you or whatever.
Right. Or
standards. I think men are honestly just threatened because with platforms like TikTok, women are saying, yeah, I'm not taking less than this. And then other women are like, fuck, you're right. I need to leave the guy I'm with, and I'm not going to date anyone who treats me like this anymore. So now there's a new support system that didn't exist before, and men are flipping shit because now they can't get laid.
Exactly. That's all it is. And it's all this, we need to control women because they don't want to have sex with us anymore because they have higher standards now. So instead, we're going to shame them into saying that by them having lots of sex and us having no sex, they are somehow emotionally incapable of being in relationships, and that's bad.
Instead of meeting women where they are, let's drag them down with us.
Yes. So
are these men okay? Like these men, though, they're varying ages. This sounds like something, a fucking 17-year-old would come up with, not a fucking 50-year-old.
I would say a lot of them are no. Okay. So that's the weird thing. So usually the people like claiming this and making these statements, I would say are probably in their 20s to early 30s.
Okay.
Then
prime douchebaggery.
Yes. Prime unwashed ass douchebaggery time. Then I will have comments from men who are older, who have probably been married for their half their lives, who will agree with that because they have no actual experience out in the real world anymore, but also they came from a time of this kind of purity culture nonsense when sex was shameful, and so you weren't supposed to admit having sex at all, and so they still believe it for those reasons because the purity culture is just as dangerous and toxic as these men saying the pair bonding nonsense too.
Right.
So it really is like all ages of shitty men. There's no age group of men that can't be shitty about this. This is a funny thing too that I did. This is the last lecture piece of my research here, but science, actual science, not this like pseudoscience, but actual science has shown that not only are you the product of your DNA and your experiences, but you're the product of both of them in almost equal measures. And they have identified genetic markers with heightened sexual activity and relationship, like desire to be in a relationship, which means that a lot of your sexual activity and your desire to like stay in relationships is determined before you even have your first relationship or have your first sexual experience, because almost half of it comes from genetics. which is really interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
And absolutely destroys anything that they have to say about, promiscuity and pair bonding. So
a lot to unpack there. Besides these men are garbage, but it just sounds like another made up term to just hate on women who are happy with their lives.
Right. And so that's what it is. Anytime a woman's out there living her life being happy, there's going to be a group of men who are upset about it every fucking time. It's crazy how often that, like, you can see it on, social media is one of the worst places, but also it's where you'll see it, where just a woman will post something fun about something she did that day, and you'll get men in there like talking shit to her because they just can't handle like a woman being happy. And because
she has to be suppressed so that she'll be with them.
Right.
So it's like, I don't have any other options for being happy. So maybe I'll be happy with this guy, which we know men typically benefit from being with a partner, not women.
Yes. Overall, generally speaking, yeah, men have a higher happiness in relationships than women do. And that's why men do this. So because the next question is why are men so insistent on pushing this? And I think that it's one, they want to control women. There's this whole group of the incel community basically that don't see women as human beings. And we've talked about, we did a whole episode.
Oh yeah,
do men even like women, and they don't see women as human beings. They see women as something they're entitled to, quite literally entitled to. A woman is just something with holes to fuck basically for them. So if they don't see you as a human being, why would they give a shit about, who you are? They want you to have as few partners as possible so that you think that they're the best lover in the world and you're submissive.
You'll never leave.
You'll never leave.
Yeah.
And it's just their twisted mentality. And it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. And then that's why it needs to be called out aggressively, because it can be very insidious. Because when you hear the argument, well, if you have a lot of sexual partners, it affects the dopamine in your brain, and it makes it harder for you to form lasting relationships with new people. You can almost think, oh, well, I guess, you could question that if you weren't educated, if you believe them, and so you could be like, oh, that almost makes sense. So then a woman hearing that who might be like, oh, well, now I feel guilty for having
and that's where they want you. They want you to feel guilty for who you are and what you've done in your past, because don't worry, if you just change your ways now, maybe you could improve, but only if you stop sleeping with other people.
Yes, exactly. And maybe I should give this guy who probably smells like a sweaty ball sack a chance, just because, he's told me that he will appreciate me even if I, I've had a lot of sexual partners.
He'll forgive me.
That's all. Yeah, exactly.
What is he, my God? Like, what the fuck? It just goes like, it's so tied into religion and the purity culture bullshit. To me, that's how I read it, anyways.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard this, but probably in my early 20s, I was told that kind of like your vagina never forgets. That after you have
an elephant,
right? My vagina is an elephant. That if you have sex with somebody, your vagina will remember for 7 years, and then after 7 years, they'll forget the size and shape of that penis that was inside of you.
Who the fuck told you that?
Bro, I don't know. I really don't fucking know. But it was somebody in Orlando, and they were like, yeah, just be careful how many people you sleep with, because that'll impact you for 7 years once they're inside of you. And obviously, I don't subscribe to that shit.
But did you for a while? Like, was it something you thought?
Bro, yeah. It was like a post-breakup thing of like, don't get back with your ex, because the more you have sex with your ex, he's going to remain in your system. So you want to stop having sex with him so he's out of your system sooner. Like he's a fucking drug or something. I don't know. It was supposed to be, I think at the time,
never forgets. Oh my God.
It was supposed to be empowering of like, don't sleep with shitty men, because your vagina will know for 7 years and they'll be like, toxic in your system. But like, looking at it now, I'm like, what the fuck even is that?
It's like your vagina is like silly putty, and like just the penis just like it leaves an imprint that just like forever, and then like other penises will like like kind of fit in there but not right, and eventually it'll flatten back out again. My God, that it might be crazier
wild?
Than any of this, honestly. And I've never heard that. That's insane.
It's always stuck with me. A vagina never forgets. Only
Yes.
after 7 years.
Women, if you're listening to this,
What the
anyone with a
fuck?
vagina is listening to this. Your vagina forgets. Okay.
Yeah,
I
your
promise.
vagina
Your
forgets
is elastic.
quickly.
Yes, your vagina forgets instantly.
Cool. That fuck was good.
Oh my
Bye.
God.
Forgotten.
It's like the that whole thing about, like people, these guys who think that, your vagina will stretch out if you have a lot of partners, but then someone turned it around and it was like, well, it's like if you sharpen your pencil too much, then look what happens to the pencil. It was trying to say that, like, here's a penis that's had that's been in
Yeah.
one vagina. It's like a thick penis, and like here's one that's been in too many vaginas. It's really skinny, and because like there's no biological science behind this at all. This is all just fear mongering to shame women. It all boils down to shaming and controlling women, like every single aspect of it, which is just ridiculous that we as a society are still doing that.
What I love the most is whenever you flip it back on the man presenting this bullshit term or whatever, and you say, okay, but for men, if they do that, then what happens? They're like, nothing. I'm like, oh, how did biology just like figure out only one side of the coin?
Men are biologically designed to mate with multiple people. We're designed to do that. So that's why. That's the type of bullshit.
That's in my DNA.
Yeah, it's in your DNA. Yeah. Fucking Cro-Magnon DNA. So, and this was interesting. This is something that I also thought about too. And I saw this and I was like, oh, okay, makes a lot of sense. Like, where did this all come from? Is obviously control and shame, but more than that, that a man came up with this theory. Okay,
absolutely.
Because only from a fucking man's perspective, would he think that a one night stand for a woman would be so incredible for her that would it somehow affect her ability to create an emotional connection. Like, only a guy would think, oh yeah, I fucked the shit out of her. Like she was begging for more. You're like, only a man's going to think like that was so incredible for her. Even though studies have shown that less than 11% of women who have one night stands have an orgasm at all.
Right.
Because men are so incapable of understanding what an orgasm for a woman is like.
Well, then it goes back to the number count thing.
Yes.
Oh God. Yeah, I was gonna say all the one night stand I had was like terrible,
Right.
I'm forgetting that real quick, and that did not change my perception on anything.
Oh, and like the few times that I've had one night stands, it's usually been like, we're usually drunk, which means it doesn't last long. It's usually, it's usually relatively quick. And then like, because sex gets better the more you have it with somebody.
And you're comfortable and you don't feel self-conscious, and yeah.
You're not drunk off your ass, and you last 2 minutes and you're like, oh, I'm done. They didn't come, but you're like, I'm done. And so like, yeah, it's no woman is going to look at a one night stand as being like this emotionally. It's the same concept of virginity, that somehow a man's penis is a magical wand that transforms a girl into a woman the first time she has vaginal penetration, by a penis.
Normally it's like, concept. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, your dick is not a wand. It does not have magical powers.
It'd be cool, but let's be real.
No, can you imagine if it would? Men would be like even more insufferable.
Well, I feel like then the vagina has magical powers too. Shit.
Oh no, the vagina definitely has more magical powers than it has a baby and then pops back into place. Like
the female body is so much more magical than anything male body would ever do.
100%.
The male body just comes.
Like, why do we have our balls on the outside? Like, we're all about failure. Like, yeah. But I want to say that now, if we have any men who have subscribed to this theory or thought that it had weight, and they've been listening to this, which I don't think we have a lot of those, but we might have one or two who are hate listening, maybe. I want to say that if you hear that women who are successful and independent and sexually liberated don't want to be in a relationship or are more likely to end relationships, instead of blaming them, that's a good sign for you to work on yourself and be a better partner. That's a time when you work on yourself to make sure that sexual experiences for your partner are good for both of you, and that you actually are not another child that she has to take care of, but you're someone who knows how to communicate and listen and be there for her. That's your sign to do that, not to try to blame women and shame women and try to find one who's so insecure about her sex life or so just maybe innocent that she thinks that what you're doing is being a healthy partner.
Yeah. And I'd also ask, what are you so afraid of? The fact that she's confident, like why wouldn't you just take that and go, oh, that's really attractive. I want to work on myself so I feel self-confident and feel happy in the skin that I'm in, instead of, it just goes back to bringing other people down. Like, what are you fucking worried about?
Yeah.
If you treat her right, if you are a good partner and you listen and you care, you don't have fucking anything to worry about. Why are you trying to make her feel less than by throwing terms like pair bonding her way to make her feel shitty, to make yourself feel better? That's not how this works.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, it's funny. I did a thing last week where for Florida Career Week, my sister's a teacher and she asked me if I would participate. They needed people to speak about their jobs to elementary, middle school, and high school students.
I have a podcast about sex.
I did not say that. I talked about being a writer to the younger classes, and then talked about being a content creator and the podcast and everything as far as the older classes. But in both the middle school and high school class, both of them, we took questions afterwards. They said, what do you do if someone doesn't like what you're putting out on the world? Like, how do you handle trolls? And and people who are like hate on your work? And I thought it was a great question. And so for both of them, I talked to them and said, you have to understand that usually it's not about you, that it's someone who is jealous about what you're putting out there, or jealous that you have the conviction and the confidence and the everything to be able to put your words out there or put yourself on video or whatever. And so they're trying to project their own insecurities onto you to bring you down, because rather than try to improve themselves and be confident and be a better, just be out there and try to do the same thing that you're doing, they would rather try to bring you down to their level. So what you need to do is completely ignore people like that. They are not worth a single tear. They're not worth a single thought, and they're not worth your time at all. So that kind of applies to this situation as well. It's all just about projection. So
it makes me think, like, when people say, oh, I could never date someone like that, or I could never, when it's not a negative, flipping it back on and going, well, really, why is like,
right,
what's the problem here? When you start questioning and digging deeper, they don't have an answer, because they're just super surface level with everything, and they're not a deep person that you want to be compatible with no matter what.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. So, anything else to talk about here? Oh, one last quick thing.
Open up the textbook again. Let's go back to this lecture.
Returning to page 34.
You were a teacher for a day. Look at you.
Is there's always a question about, well, what about STIs? That someone who has more sexual partners is a higher, risk of contracting, sexually transmitted diseases. Okay. Between
are you being
partners,
safe though? Like,
right,
there's a level of that.
And then that's number one. Number two, the men who argue this, the men who like, well, she's more likely to to have an STI, are also the same men who won't get tested between partners. They're also the same men who cheat on their partners and bring home an STI. And that's the thing, is you can get an STI from being with one person. If your partner cheats, the very first time you have sex, you can get an STI. You can get an STI from not having sex. Like you can get it from a variety of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so the worst thing about STIs is actually the stigma related to it, not the actual, illness itself. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. But also, once you get it tested, you get a panel and you get it tested, then you have nothing to worry about. And I think that's the thing to look for, is if you're worried about your partner, if you're like, well, the reason that I'm worried is because I'm worried about her having an STI, then you go get your ass tested first, and then she can go get tested. And then when she's clean, what the fuck else are you going to say? And then they usually have no argument at that point. So I wanted to bring that up, because that is one more counter argument they bring.
You're so right, though. Those are the same men that will say, oh, I'm good, I'm safe. And I'm like, you refuse to wear a condom. You really didn't get tested in between partners, but like, you're fucking worried about me, bro. Are you fucking for real?
Always, yeah. Because it's never a real reason. It's always this disingenuous bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, All right. Well, takeaways. Pair bonding is bullshit.
Yep. Pair bonding is bullshit. And
we knew that though.
But anybody who uses it is not someone worth having a discussion for. Like they're not worth talking to if they're going to start bringing up pair bonding. Like that's it.
Just question them. But why? Why? And then flip it on. How can that impact men though? And when they don't have an answer, they're a dumbass.
Yes. And say, did you know that humans don't really pair bond? That we're actually serial monogamous? And see what he has to say about that. And I guarantee he won't even know that part. And that'll just immediately throw him for a loop. And then you can ask him, well, if sex changes the dopamine levels in your brain, then how does a lot of sex with one partner, how is that different than having sex with lots of partners? And he won't have.
Does our brain just inherently know? Listen,
the brain never forgets. The
brain, vagina,
the dick leaves an imprint on the brain for 7 years. So your brain is just a variety of dick imprints just stuck around.
Could you imagine?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. Just there's nothing wrong with having sex. Like,
yes.
Why are we? It's always a sex shame thing. That's where this is always coming from. Is that we shouldn't have sex and sex is bad. Yet when we have sex and we feel pleasure, it's also like everything just sex related is bad. Unless a man wants sex,
right? Then
that's good.
Exactly.
But if a woman wants to have sex bad.
Woman sex bad, man sex good.
Like that's men's sex good.
That boils down to the men's rights, the misogynist discussion point.
Well, it just extends so many more things though. Like you could put that into abortion. Like it expands to all of these other topics from just this one argument of like, oh, well, women like this and that. And it's like, okay, but if you ever were to tie it back to men, this relates to like birth control. Oh, but men don't want to take birth control pills because of, sorry, men. It's every single one of these topics. You could flip it back on men. And then you're just like, yeah, this is fucking bullshit.
And that's one of those things is any man who's going to argue these things, they're not going to have a good argument for anything else related to things you were just talking about. Like all of their arguments stem from control and from not treating women as human beings. Like that's what it kind of boils down to. And so anyone who's going to try to have a discussion, you can't ever see them as they never have a good point about anything because everything is all related to the same bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And like I would say always be suspicious of anyone who's trying to regulate or moderate or criminalize or judge people for having a healthy and happy sex life. I mean, anyone who's trying to do that at all does not have anyone's best interest in mind. They're not a genuine person. They're a disingenuous piece of shit, and they should be taken seriously because they're dangerous.
Yeah. I just like, why do you hate yourself so much?
Right.
Is really
That's
my question.
What it boils down to. They've never loved themselves. And so they want to make sure nobody else can love themselves either.
That is so good. Yeah, you're right. Well,
please, we love you.
Yeah, we love you. And, pause and call the hotline. Tell us how you're feeling about pair bonding and men in general. You can call us at 407-519-0181. Again, we do need some more hotline stuff, so you can call us for anything. If you just want to chat, doesn't have to be related to dating, sex, or relationships.
Yeah, just anything that might be interesting to talk about. We're trying to expand, and we would love to hear what you have to say. And we want you to love yourself. And if you want help with that support and loving yourself, you can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/DKS Podcast. You can also, email us with any questions at datingkindofsuckspodcast@gmail.com.
You can also DM us on Instagram at Dating Kinda Sucks, or find us on TikTok, where I'm sure Adam has already done a TikTok on pair bonding. No? Yeah.
I've done several, but I'm going to be doing more. So
okay, great. Yes. Well, you can follow him at Adam Heath, or you can follow me at @simplysarahg_ for anything related to the lodge at St. Edward State Park or all the travel stuff we've talked about today.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this and you want to watch this instead, you can watch on YouTube. You get to see the raw, mostly unedited versions where I just leave everything in, all the stuff that Sarah wants cut out. And that's youtube.com/datingkindasucks. And of course, we just got a couple new reviews on iTunes. So thank you to those listeners who went over there. One of them said she listened on Spotify, but she specifically went over to Apple Podcast to leave a review. So I appreciate that. If you would do that too, that'd be great. To get another 5-star rating and review on iTunes, it would be fantastic for us.
And then for as little as $5 a month, we do have our Patreon at patreon.com/DKS Podcast. We film exclusive after the episode, mini episodes, and we just chat about life and spew random bullshit that you wouldn't hear on a regular episode. Again, that's at our Patreon.
Yeah. And we usually put up, it's usually like a 15 to 20 minute bonus episode that has stuff that you're never going to hear on the podcast, because it's stuff that we just kind of randomly talk about.
And we know that too, because I'm like, oh, I'm so happy so-and-so couldn't hear that because it's only for you guys.
It's true. Yeah. Some of it is, it should never be public. So with that,
like a crotch shot of my.
Yes. Like on Sarah
Yeah.
did a crotch shot trying to show the sexual position that she had. Which was
That's the best episode we've ever had.
I know. It's fantastic. So with that, we will be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode, and thank you for joining us.
Until next time.
Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.